Velcris slithered into Xenobiology 301 with her tablet clutched in 3 of her tentacles, already regretting her decision to take early morning classes. The lecture hall sprawled before her like an amphitheater, filled with students from at least 15 different species, all chattering in the pre-class chaos that transcended language barriers. She found a seat near the middle, next to a Kralaxian whose crystalline structure refracted the overhead lights into tiny rainbows across the desk. 2 rows down, a pair of Vothian twins argued in clicking harmonics about something trivial. Behind her, someone who looked like a floating blob of semi-sentient gel was already absorbing a textbook. Literally. "Attention, attention please," Professor Thrandok's voice boomed across the hall. The elderly Zarkonian stood at the front, his 6 arms gesturing for silence, his mandibles clicking with impatience. "Settle down, all of you. We have much to cover today, and I promise you this will be the most unsettling lecture of your entire academic career." The chatter died down to curious murmurs. Velcris activated her tablet, ready to take notes. "Today," Thrandok continued, his eye stalks swiveling to look at every student simultaneously, "we will be studying one of the most recent additions to our Galactic Federation. A species that, by all statistical models, should not exist. A species that comes from a Class 12 Deathworld, the highest rating we have ever given to an inhabited planet." He paused for dramatic effect. "Today, we study humanity. We study Earth." Velcris heard someone snort. A wet, phlegmy sound from the back row. It was Bralix, a Thuxian whose species was known for their arrogance and their military prowess. "Humans," Bralix called out, not bothering to raise his appendage for permission. "Those soft pink things. Professor, with respect, I have seen human exchange students. They look like they would pop if you poked them too hard. No exoskeleton, no natural weapons, no venom sacs. They are barely worth studying." Several students chittered in agreement. Velcris had seen exactly one human before, in the cafeteria last semester. A female, she thought. Though human sexual dimorphism was subtle, the human had seemed pleasant enough, smiling at everyone, offering help to a Quallen who had dropped their meal tray. Harmless, really. Professor Thrandok's mandibles spread wide in what Velcris had learned to recognize as a grin. "Oh, my dear students," he said, his voice dropping to something almost sinister. "You have no idea what you are talking about. By the end of this class you will understand why the Galactic Council debated for 3 standard years about whether to even allow humans into our Federation. You will understand why there are species who still vote every cycle to quarantine their entire planet." He activated the holo display behind him. An image of Earth materialized, rotating slowly, blue and green and white, deceptively beautiful. "Let us begin with the basics, shall we?" Professor Thrandok tapped his datapad, and numbers began scrolling across the holo display next to the image of Earth. "Let us start with something simple. Gravity. The force that keeps you anchored to a planet's surface. Most civilized worlds in our Federation maintain a gravitational pull between 0.6 and 0.9 standard Gs. My homeworld, Zarkon Prime, sits comfortably at 0.7. Comfortable, reasonable, survivable." He paused, letting his eye stalk sweep across the room. "Earth clocks in at 1.8 standard Gs. Silence. Then nervous laughter. "That cannot be right," said Jira, a willowy Anturian, whose people evolved in low-gravity environments. "That would mean humans are constantly being crushed by nearly double the force we experience. They would not be able to stand upright. Their bones would break under their own weight." "And yet," Thrandok said, mandibles clicking with satisfaction, "they do stand. They walk, they run, they jump. In fact, human children engage in recreational jumping for fun. They call it hopscotch and jumping rope. Children, for fun. In one." Velcris felt her skin prickling. "That could not be possible. I think," Thrandok continued, "we need a demonstration. Who would like to volunteer to experience Earth standard gravity for exactly 10 seconds? No one moved. "Come now. Do not be shy. It is perfectly safe. The simulator will not harm you." "Probably." Velcris found her tentacle raising before she could stop herself. Curiosity was both her greatest strength and her most annoying weakness. "Excellent. Miss Velcris, please come to the front." She slithered down to the platform where a circular pad hummed with barely contained energy. Thrandok gestured for her to position herself in the center. 10 seconds, he reminded her. Just 10 seconds of what a human experiences every moment of every day of their entire lives. He activated the simulator. The weight hit Velcris like a cargo shuttle. Her tentacles buckled, slamming against the platform. Her respiratory sacs compressed, squeezed, making it impossible to draw breath. Her vision tunneled, edges going dark. She could feel her organs shifting, pressing down against each other. Her 3 hearts hammered erratically, struggling to pump blood against the crushing pressure. Somewhere far away she heard Thranduil counting. 7, 8, 9, 10. The pressure released. Velcris gasped, collapsed in a heap of trembling tentacles, her skin flushed a deep purple with shock. 2 students rushed forward to help her back to her seat. 10 seconds, Thranduil repeated, his voice cutting through the horrified murmurs that filled the hall. Miss Velcris experienced 10 seconds and nearly lost consciousness. Humans live every moment of their lives in that environment. They sleep in it. They mate in it. They give birth in it. He pulled up a video file. A human, male, running across a field, legs pumping, arms swinging. Then, impossibly, the human jumped, clearing a barrier that was waist-high. This is a human child, Thranduil explained. Age 12, participating in what they call track and field. Watch how high he jumps. Watch how fast he runs. In one, Brolix had gone very quiet in the back row. Their muscles, Thranduil continued, are not just strong for their size, they are strong because they have to be. Every human you have ever seen walking through our station's corridors at 0.8 Gs is operating at less than half the resistance they evolved for. To them, our standard gravity feels like floating. They have to consciously restrain themselves to avoid jumping through ceilings. Velcris was still shaking. 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. And she had nearly blacked out. Humans lived in that. Every single day. But surely, Sierra said weakly, surely that is the worst of it. Professor Thranduil's mandibles spread into that terrible grin again. Oh my dear student, he said. We have only just begun. Thranduil pulled up a new chart, this one displaying atmospheric compositions from various Federation homeworlds. Columns of data glowed in soft blues and greens, showing percentages of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, methane and oxygen. Now then, the professor said, zooming in on one particular column, let us discuss what these deathworlders breathe. Oxygen concentration. Most species in this room require oxygen to survive, yes. It is a common element for carbon-based life, but the key word here is concentration. He highlighted several planets. Zarkon Prime, 8.3% oxygen. Anturia, 9.1%. Krelaxi, 11.2%. The galactic standard for habitable atmospheres ranges from 8 to 12% oxygen, with the rest being inert gases like nitrogen, that will not kill you. Velcris was taking notes furiously, her tentacles still trembling slightly from her experience with the gravity simulator. Earth's atmosphere, Thranduil said, and the number appeared on the screen in glaring red, is 21% oxygen. The classroom erupted in shocked gasps and frantic chittering. That is impossible, someone shouted. That is a corrosive environment. That would oxidize. That would burn. Exactly, Thranduil said, his voice cutting through the panic. Oxygen, my students, is a highly reactive element. It is corrosive. It causes oxidation, which you might know by its common name, rusting. At concentrations above 15%, oxygen becomes toxic to most Federation species. It would, quite literally, corrode your insides over time. He brought up a molecular diagram. Oxygen radicals, also called free radicals, damage cellular structures. They break down proteins, lipids, DNA itself. This is why we age, why our bodies deteriorate. Oxygen is a poison we need in small doses to survive, but it slowly kills us nonetheless. Krillax, a methane breather who sat in a specialized containment suit, raised a trembling appendage. Professor, are you saying that humans breathe concentrated poison every moment of their lives? That their atmosphere is actively corroding them from the inside? Yes, Thranduil said simply. Humans are, quite literally, rusting. Constantly. Their cellular structure is under perpetual assault from oxygen radicals. To combat this, they evolved something called antioxidants, which they must consume in their diet. Their bodies are engaged in a never-ending war against their own atmosphere. Krillax's suit made a concerning whistling sound, and then the student slumped forward, unconscious. 2 medical drones zipped over to attend to them. Is Krillax all right? Velcris asked, concerned. They will be fine, Thranduil said dismissively. Methane breathers find the concept of oxygen saturation particularly disturbing. Now where was I? Ah yes. But wait, it gets worse.
Worse?
Shira whispered. How could it possibly get worse? Thranduil pulled up a weather map of Earth showing swirling hurricane systems, temperature gradients and storm patterns that looked like declarations of war from an angry deity. Earth's weather, he announced, is apocalyptic by any reasonable standard. Temperature fluctuations on a single continent can range from -40 degrees to +50 degrees Celsius, depending on the season. Humans call this winter and summer, and they just live through it. He zoomed in on a satellite image of a massive spiral cloud system. This is called a hurricane. Winds exceeding 250 kilometers per hour. Humans have built entire cities in regions where these occur regularly. They have a season for them, hurricane season. They named the season. Velcris felt faint again, and this, Thrandok continued, pulling up another image, is a tornado, a rotating column of air that appears with little warning and destroys everything in its path. Humans in certain regions have built underground shelters specifically for they occur so frequently that they have warning systems, preparation drills, and what they call storm chasers, humans who drive toward these things on purpose to study them. Brolix's voice came from the back, much quieter than before. They chase the death storms, voluntarily, for science, Thrandok confirmed, and sometimes for entertainment. They film it. The class sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they were hearing. But surely, Velcris ventured, her voice small, surely their biology compensates somehow? They must have some advantage, some evolutionary adaptation that makes this bearable. Professor Thrandok's mandibles clicked together in what might have been laughter. Oh, they do, he said. And that is what makes them truly terrifying. Shall we continue? Thrandok brought up a new display, this one showing a complex web of interconnected species. At the top of the pyramid sat a simple silhouette of a human figure. Let us talk about Earth's food chain. The professor began, tapping the image. Earth is what we call a high-competition ecosystem. Everything is trying to eat everything else, and everything else is trying very hard not to be eaten. Humans sit at the apex of this chain, which might surprise you given their lack of claws, fangs, or venom. He pulled up a video. It showed a human, barely clothed, running across a savanna under a blazing sun. In the distance, a four-legged creature with horns was fleeing. This is how humans used to hunt before they developed projectile weapons. It is called persistence hunting. Watch carefully. The video played at accelerated speed. The human jogged, not sprinted, maintaining a steady pace. The horned animal would run, stop to rest, panting. The human would catch up. The animal would flee again. This continued, over and over, for what the timestamp showed as 4 hours. Finally, the animal collapsed, its sides heaving, completely exhausted. The human, still jogging, caught up and calmly dispatched it. What you just witnessed, Thrandok said into the horrified silence, is a human hunting strategy. They do not chase prey at maximum speed. They chase it at a sustainable pace, for hours, sometimes for days, until the prey literally dies of exhaustion. Humans are endurance predators. They can regulate their body temperature through sweating, which allows them to run in conditions that would kill most creatures. They simply do not stop. Shara's voice was barely a whisper. They run their prey to death. That is psychological torture. To prey species, yes. Thrandok agreed. Humans are what nightmares would create if nightmares could evolve. But their predatory adaptations are only part of the picture. Let us discuss their immune system. A new diagram appeared, showing a human cell being attacked by various pathogens. Every second of every day, Thrandok explained, a human body is fighting off billions of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. Earth's high oxygen content supports an incredibly diverse and aggressive microbial ecosystem. A simple scratch can introduce dozens of potentially lethal infections. He paused. And yet humans heal. They have what is called an adaptive immune system, which remembers every pathogen it encounters and builds specific defenses. They literally become stronger from surviving diseases. I have a relevant story, Thrandok continued. Last year, a human exchange student named Connor Blake came to class displaying symptoms we would consider critical: elevated temperature, respiratory distress, muscular aches, fatigue. I immediately called for medical evacuation. The students leaned forward. Connor refused. He said, and I quote, "I just have the flu. I will be fine in a few days. I will not miss the exam." Thrandok's eye stalks drooped with the memory. His body temperature was 39 degrees Celsius. He was hallucinating slightly. He took what humans call over-the-counter medicine, which is apparently just mild symptom suppressors they can buy without medical authorization, and he sat through a 3-hour examination. He survived? Velcris asked. He got a 96% on the exam, Thrandok said. And yes, 3 days later he was completely recovered. His immune system simply eliminated the infection. He told me this particular virus was a mild one. Krillax, who had regained consciousness, made a sound like escaping steam. But here is the truly disturbing part, Thrandok said, pulling up an anatomical diagram. Humans have redundant organs. 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, 2 brain hemispheres that can partially compensate for each other. They can survive with 1 kidney removed. They can live with 1 lung. There are documented cases of humans surviving with significant portions of their liver destroyed, because it regenerates. He highlighted various organs. They have an appendix that serves no current purpose but occasionally tries to kill them. They have wisdom teeth that do not fit in their mouths. Their bodies are full of evolutionary leftovers and they just live with it. They are built with spare parts, Brolic said, his voice strangled. Like a redundant ship system. Essentially, yes, Thrandok confirmed. Because on Earth you need backup systems. Failure is not an option when everything is trying to kill you. The class stared at the diagram in collective horror, beginning to understand exactly what kind of species they had been casually dismissing. Thrandok advanced to the next slide, this one displaying molecular structures of various chemical compounds. Now we arrive at perhaps the most baffling aspect of human biology, the professor said, the recreational consumption of toxins. Humans do not merely tolerate poisons in their environment, they actively seek them out, consume them voluntarily, and have built entire industries around them. He highlighted the first molecule. This is caffeine. It is an alkaloid toxin produced by earth plants as a defense mechanism against herbivores. It causes cardiac arrhythmia, neurological overstimulation, and dependency. Lethal dose for most Federation species is approximately 60 milligrams. The students looked appropriately alarmed. Humans consume it every morning, Thrandok continued. An average cup of what they call coffee contains 95 milligrams. Many humans drink multiple cups per day and experience what they describe as mild jitters at worst. That is insane, Jira said flatly. It gets better, Thrandok said, moving to the next molecule. This is ethanol, also known as alcohol. It is a neurotoxin and cellular poison. Humans drink it socially. They have parties centered around consuming it. They ferment fruits and grains specifically to create it, then age it in wooden barrels to improve the flavor of the poison. He pulled up an image of a bar with hundreds of bottles. There are thousands of varieties. They have experts called sommeliers, who can identify subtle notes in the taste of different poisons. They pay premium prices for well-aged toxins. Krillax was making that steam whistle sound again. And finally, Thrandok said, displaying a third molecule, capsaicin, a compound that triggers pain receptors, specifically the receptors that detect burning. Plants evolved this to prevent mammals from eating them. He paused for effect. Humans breed plants to produce higher concentrations of it. They have competitions to see who can tolerate the most pain. They have a measurement scale. They put it in their food on purpose, and describe the experience as enjoyable. At that moment the lecture hall door opened. A human walked in, tall by human standards, wearing casual clothing and carrying a large cup with steam rising from it. He had the typical human features, the forward-facing predator eyes, the omnivore teeth visible as he smiled apologetically. Sorry I'm late, Professor Thrandok, the human said. Labs ran long. Is it okay if I sit in today? Every student in the room turned to stare. Several made alarmed noises. Ah, perfect timing, Thrandok said, mandibles spreading. Everyone, this is Nathan Brooks, one of our human exchange students. Nathan, we were just discussing human toxin consumption. What are you drinking? Nathan held up his cup. Oh, this. Just coffee. Needed the pick-me-up. The classroom erupted. Students scrambled backward, knocking over chairs. Shira actually levitated 3 feet above her seat. Velcris felt all 3 of her hearts accelerate. He has poison, someone shrieked. He brought poison into the classroom. Nathan looked confused, then glanced at his cup. Wait, you mean the caffeine? Oh, right. Yeah, I forget that is weird for you guys. Do not worry. It is only dangerous to me if I drink like I do not know 50 cups or something. How many have you had today? Thrandok asked, clearly enjoying himself. Nathan thought about it. This is my 6th cup, maybe 5th. I lost count after the all-nighter I pulled studying for xenobotany. 6 cups, Velcris whispered. That is over 500 milligrams of a lethal toxin. Yeah, I am probably going to get the jitters later, Nathan said cheerfully, taking another sip. Might switch to decaf after this one. Oh, Professor, did you cover alcohol yet? 'Cause I have a funny story about spring break and tequila. Please. No, Krillax moaned. Tequila, Thrandok explained to the class, is a particularly potent form of ethanol derived from a plant that is also covered in toxic spines. Humans remove the spines, ferment the plant, distill it, and drink it in shots, which means consuming it as quickly as possible. Nathan nodded enthusiastically. It burns going down. That is how you know it is good. It burns. Shiro repeated faintly. And that is good. Well, sure, Nathan said. I mean, if you are going to drink poison, it should at least taste interesting. Oh, that reminds me. Anyone want to try hot sauce? I have some in my bag. It is only rated at 50,000 Scoville units, so it is pretty mild. Scoville units? Brolix asked against his better judgment. It is how we measure capsaicin concentration, Nathan explained. This one is beginner level. My roommate has a bottle that is rated at 2 million Scoville. We dared each other to try it last week. I could not feel my tongue for an hour. It was awesome. He said this with genuine enthusiasm, smiling like he was describing a pleasant day at the park. You could not feel your tongue, Velcris said slowly. And this was awesome. Yeah, total adrenaline rush, Nathan said. Really gets the blood pumping. Anyway, I will just sit in the back and try not to distract you guys. Thanks for letting me audit, Professor. He walked up the steps to find a seat, still casually sipping his coffee. Students pulled away from him like he was radioactive, which Velcris realized he essentially was. Thrandok waited until Nathan was seated, then turned back to the class. As you can see, humans do not just survive their death world, they actively seek out new and interesting ways to introduce controlled damage to their bodies. For fun, Nathan raised his hand from the back. In my defense, it really is fun. Nobody knew how to respond to that. Professor Thrandok seemed to consider something, his eye stalk swiveling toward Nathan in the back row. Actually, Nathan, since you are here, would you mind assisting with a demonstration? I think it would be educational for the class to hear directly from a human about your species' pain tolerance and healing capabilities. Nathan shrugged and stood up, bringing his coffee with him. Sure, happy to help. What do you need? Simply tell us about any injuries you have sustained and how long they took to heal, Thrandok said. Oh, that is easy, Nathan said, setting his cup down on the professor's desk. He rolled up his right sleeve, revealing his forearm. See this scar? Broke my arm in 2 places when I was 12. Fell out of a tree I was climbing. You were climbing a tree? Krillax asked. Why? Because it was there? Nathan said as if this was obvious. Anyway, stabbed my radius and ulna clean through. Hurt like hell. Not going to lie. And you survived this? Velcris asked. Nathan looked confused. Well, yeah. I mean, it is just a broken bone. They put me in a cast. I wore it for 6 weeks. Then I was fine. Well, mostly fine. I had to do physical therapy for a month after that to get my strength back. 6 weeks, Thrandok repeated for the class's benefit. A compound fracture of 2 major bones healed in 6 weeks. That is impossible, Brolix said. Bone regeneration takes months, sometimes years depending on species. And you were a child. Juvenile bones are weaker, more porous. Actually, kids heal faster than adults, Nathan said. Something about our growth plates still being active. I had a friend who broke his femur, that is the big leg bone, and he was back playing soccer in 3 months. Playing soccer? Gara's voice went up an octave. Your friend suffered a catastrophic structural failure of his primary load-bearing limb and then returned to recreational physical combat. Nathan laughed. Soccer is not really combat. Well, not officially. But yeah, he was fine. Oh, here is a good one. He lifted his shirt slightly, showing a pale, twisted scar across his rib cage. Cracked 3 ribs during football practice when I was 16. Football practice, Thrandok said. That is the sport where armored humans deliberately collide with each other at high speeds, correct? Yup, Nathan confirmed proudly. I was playing defensive end, got hit wrong during a tackle, cracked ribs here, here, and here. He pointed to 3 spots along his side. Could not breathe right for a couple weeks. A couple of weeks? Velcris felt dizzy. You damaged your respiratory structural supports and recovered in weeks. Well, I mean, they do not actually cast ribs or anything, you just kind of have to let them heal on their own. Hurts when you laugh or sneeze. I still finished the season though. The room went silent. You continued playing full contact sports with broken ribs, Brolix said slowly. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. Okay. Looking back, maybe that was not the smartest choice. My mom was pretty mad when she found out. But in my defense, we made it to regionals that year, and I was not about to let my team down. You just take some ibuprofen and walk it off. Walk it off, Thrandok repeated. Class, this is a common human phrase. When injured, humans often advocate for continuing to ambulate, believing movement will accelerate healing or at least prove they are not seriously damaged. It works though, Nathan insisted. Most of the time. I mean, unless something is actually broken or you are bleeding a lot, you can usually just walk it off. Krillax made a sound like a deflating balloon. Nathan continued, warming to his subject. Oh, and burns. See this? He held up his left hand, showing a shiny patch of skin on his palm. Grabbed a hot pan when I was cooking last year. 2nd-degree burn. Hurt for a few days, but it healed up fine. Just kept it bandaged and used some antibiotic ointment. You have antibiotics available without medical supervision? Shira asked weakly. Sure, you can buy it at any pharmacy, Nathan said. Basic first aid stuff. Everyone has it. Everyone has antibiotics in their home, Velcris said. Just in case. Well, yeah, Nathan said. You never know when you are going to cut yourself or scrape something. Oh, that reminds me of this gnarly scar on my knee from when I wiped out on my bike going down a hill. Tore up the whole kneecap, gravel embedded in there. Blood everywhere. My dad just hosed it off. Picked out the rocks and put a bandage on it. Several students looked genuinely ill. Your father performed field surgery on you, Bralik said. I mean, I would not call it surgery, Nathan said. It is just basic wound care. Clean it, disinfect it, bandage it. Done. Though I will say, the tetanus shot I had to get afterward was not fun. Those needles are thick. Tetanus shot? Velcris asked, dreading the answer. Oh right, you guys might not have that. It is a vaccine for a bacteria that lives in soil and can cause muscle spasms so severe they can break your bones. We get shots for it every 10 years or so. Your planet has bacteria that breaks bones, Krillax whispered. Had a friend get tetanus once because he stepped on a rusty nail. Nathan continued. Lockjaw, they call it. His jaw muscles seized up so hard he could not open his mouth. Pretty scary stuff. But he got treatment and was fine. Thrandock interjected. Nathan, tell them about human dental procedures. Nathan's face lit up. Oh man. Okay, so I had to get a root canal last year. That is where they drill into your tooth to remove infected tissue from inside it. They drill into your bones, Shira said. Your mouth bones. Teeth are not technically bones. But yeah, basically. So they numb you up with local anesthetic, which is just an injection into your gums. Then they drill out the infected pulp, clean it and seal it back up. Takes like an hour. And you are awake the whole time. Awake, Bralix repeated. Yeah, you can feel the pressure and hear the drilling, but it does not hurt because of the numbing. Though once the anesthetic wears off, it is pretty sore for a day or two. I just took some painkillers and I was back at work the next day. Nathan picked up his coffee and took another sip, completely oblivious to the existential horror he had just unleashed upon the classroom. Any questions? He asked cheerfully. No one spoke. They were too busy trying to process the fact that humans routinely experienced what any other species would consider catastrophic trauma and just walked it off. Professor Thrandock gestured for Nathan to remain at the front. Before you return to your seat, Nathan, I want to shift our discussion to something perhaps even more unusual than human physical durability. Your psychological resilience. Oh boy, Nathan said, grinning. This should be good. Thrandock pulled up an image of a large furry creature with prominent fangs. Class, this is a wolf. An apex predator from Earth, highly aggressive pack hunter, capable of killing prey many times its size. Humans looked at this creature and said, I want to keep this in my home with my children. We domesticated them like 10,000 years ago, Nathan said. Now we call them dogs. I have two. Want to see pictures? Before anyone could respond, he was already pulling out his communication device and swiping through images. This is Sergeant Fluffles. And this is Princess Destroyer. Sergeant Fluffles loves belly rubs and Princess Destroyer once ate an entire chocolate cake off the counter and had to go to the emergency vet. He showed the screen to the nearest students, who recoiled at the sight of two creatures with mouths full of teeth, tongues hanging out. You named a predator, Sergeant Fluffles, Velcris said. He is fluffy, Nathan said defensively. And he is a very good boy. Both of them sleep in my bed. In your bed, Krillax repeated. The predators sleep in your bed, where you are unconscious and vulnerable. They are not predators anymore, they are pets, Nathan explained. We bred the danger out of them over thousands of generations. Mostly, I mean they still have teeth, but they only use them on their toys. And the mailman that one time, but he was fine, just some minor bites. Thrandock nodded approvingly. Humans do not only domesticate pack hunters, they also keep reptilian predators, arachnids and even large felines that could easily kill them. They form emotional attachments to these creatures and grieve when they die. Oh man, when my childhood dog passed away, I cried for a week. Nathan said, his expression becoming somber. He was 16, lived a good long life, but it still hurt. He was family. You mourned a predator, Brolic said. He was not just a predator, he was my best friend, Nathan said quietly. Look, humans bond with anything. We name our cars, our plants, our cleaning robots. There is a Mars rover that has been dead for years, and people still post birthday messages to it on social media. You bond with machines, Velcro said. There is a robot on Mars that sent back a message saying my battery is low and it is getting dark. Before it died, Nathan explained, the whole planet mourned. We made art about it. We wrote songs. It was a robot just doing its programming, but we loved it anyway. Frenduk clicked to a new slide. This is what makes humans truly dangerous. Not their physical capabilities, not their Deathworld adaptations, but this. Their ability to form emotional connections with virtually anything, and their capacity to continue functioning despite emotional devastation. He looked at Nathan. Tell them about compartmentalization. Nathan nodded. Right. So humans can kind of put their emotions in boxes when they need to. Like you can be going through the worst day of your life, but if there is a job to do, you just do it. You push the feelings down, deal with the crisis, and then fall apart later when it is safe. I do not understand, Sierra said. How do you simply ignore emotional trauma? You do not ignore it, you delay it, Nathan explained. Like my grandmother died the night before my college finals. I found out at 2 in the morning. I cried for an hour, then I wiped my face. Studied for 3 more hours, took the exam at 8 in the morning, and then went to make funeral arrangements. You just do what needs to be done. The class stared at him in horror. That is not healthy, Krulak said. Probably not, Nathan admitted, but it is effective. Humans have survived because we can take a hit, emotional or physical, and keep moving forward. We grieve, we hurt, we break, but we do not stop. There is a saying on Earth, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. That is mathematically impossible, Brolix pointed out. Exactly, Nathan said with a slight smile. But we do it anyway. That is kind of the human thing. We are told something is impossible and we take it as a challenge. Thrandok's mandibles clicked softly. Humans have survived extinction-level events on their planet, supervolcano eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts. Their population has bottlenecked to less than 10,000 individuals and they recovered. They lost civilizations to plagues and rebuilt. They are emotionally and psychologically designed to endure. Nathan picked up his coffee again. We are stubborn. I will give you that. It is probably our most defining trait. Honestly, we do not give up, ever. Even when we probably should. Velkris felt something shift in her understanding. The physical adaptations were terrifying, yes. But this was something else entirely. A species that could bond with anything, survive anything, endure anything, and still get up the next morning to try again. Are there any limits to human resilience? She asked quietly. Nathan considered the question. Sure, we have limits. We break, we burn out, we collapse. But then we rest, we recover, and we come back. That is the thing about humans. You can knock us down, but we are really, really good at getting back up. He said it so matter-of-factly, like it was just a simple truth, rather than the most terrifying survival trait Velkris had ever heard of. Professor Thrandok let the silence stretch. Any other questions for our human volunteer? No one spoke. They were too busy re-evaluating every interaction they had ever had with humans, seeing them now not as soft, weak creatures, but as something far more dangerous, endurance predators who bonded with their prey and never ever stopped. Professor Thrandok dismissed Nathan with a gesture of appreciation, waiting until the human had returned to his seat before addressing the class again. Now then, Thrandok said, his tone shifting to something more serious. I want to conduct a small exercise. I will present you with survival scenarios from Earth, actual documented situations that humans have experienced. You will estimate how long you believe you could survive versus how long a human did survive. This should prove illuminating. He brought up the first scenario on the holo display. An endless expanse of golden sand stretched across the screen, heat waves visibly distorting the air. Scenario 1. You are stranded in the Sahara Desert. Daytime temperatures reach 50 degrees Celsius. Nighttime temperatures drop to near freezing. No water sources, no shelter, no food. How long could your species survive? Chigara spoke first. Enturians require constant hydration and moderate temperatures. I would estimate 12 hours, perhaps 18 if I rationed my body moisture efficiently. Kralaxians would fracture in those temperature extremes, said the crystalline student. 6 hours maximum, Thuxians could manage perhaps 2 days, Browlix admitted grudgingly. We store water efficiently, but those temperatures would be lethal quickly, Velcris calculated. My species could survive approximately 30 hours without water in moderate temperatures. In those extremes, perhaps 20 hours, Thrandok nodded, his eye stalk sweeping across the responses. Reasonable estimates. All of you. The longest estimate was 2 days. He paused. The record for human survival in desert conditions without water is 10 days. With minimal water rationing, humans have survived for weeks. Stunned silence. 10 days, Krillax whispered. A man named Mauro Prosperi got lost during a desert marathon in 1994, Nathan called from the back. He survived 9 days by drinking his own urine and bat blood he found in an abandoned shrine. Walked over 200 kilometers before he was found. Bat blood, Velcris said faintly. He drank bat blood. Hydration is hydration, Nathan said with a shrug. Thrandok moved to the next scenario. The screen now showed a vast ocean, waves rolling endlessly toward the horizon. Scenario 2. You are stranded in open ocean. No land in sight. Water temperature approximately 15 degrees Celsius. You must tread water to survive. How long? 15 degrees would induce thermal shock in Anturians immediately. Shira said. Minutes, not hours. Thuxians cannot swim. Brolix said. We would sink and drown within minutes. I could potentially float for several hours, Velcris estimated. But hypothermia would set in quickly. Perhaps 4 hours maximum. The longest recorded time for a human treading water in open ocean is 43 hours. Thrandok announced. There are multiple cases of humans surviving 3 to 5 days clinging to debris, fighting off exhaustion, dehydration and hypothermia simultaneously. He clicked to the next image. Snow-covered mountains towered against a gray sky, wind whipping snow into blinding sheets. Scenario 3. Trapped on a freezing mountain. Temperatures negative 30 degrees Celsius. Limited oxygen due to altitude. Possible frostbite and avalanche risk. Survival time estimates. The students exchanged glances. These were conditions incompatible with most of their biologies. Ours, Sierra said. At best, agreed. Several others murmured. A human mountaineer named Beck Weathers was left for dead on Mount Everest in 1996, Thrandok said. He was caught in a blizzard, suffered severe frostbite, went blind and spent a night in temperatures reaching negative 40 degrees. He was found the next morning, still alive, and walked back to camp mostly under his own power. He lost his nose, his right hand and parts of his feet, but he survived. He walked, Browlix said, after being left for dead, in negative 40 degrees. Blind. Human literature is full of survival stories that seem impossible, Thrandok continued, but I want to share one that I find particularly illustrative of human determination. He pulled up an image that made several students recoil. It showed a canyon, narrow and deep. In 2003, a human named Aaron Ralston was climbing alone when an 800-pound boulder shifted and trapped his right arm against the canyon wall. He was stuck for 5 days. No rescue was coming. No one knew where he was. Thrandok paused, letting the horror of the situation sink in. He ran out of water on day 3. By day 5 he realized he was going to die unless he took drastic action. So he broke his own arm bones, severed the tissue with a dull multi-tool knife and amputated his own arm to free himself. The classroom erupted in shrieks and gasps. Krillax fainted again. He then rappelled down a 65-foot cliff face with one arm, hiked 7 miles through the desert and encountered rescue teams who described him as surprisingly coherent given the circumstances. He cut off his own arm, Velcris said, all 3 hearts racing, with a dull knife, while trapped. After 5 days without water, the book he wrote about the experience became a bestseller, Nathan added helpfully. They made a movie about it. Pretty intense. Humans regularly survive situations that would kill any other Federation species within hours, Thrandok said. They have survived plane crashes in remote wilderness, months adrift at sea, being buried in avalanches, lost in cave systems. A human once survived a fall from 10,000 meters when her parachute failed. She landed in a snowbank and walked away with broken bones that healed. He looked around the classroom. Do you understand now? Humans are not just adapted to survive on a death world. They are apex survivors, period. They have turned endurance into an art form. Where any rational species would give up and die, humans simply refuse to stop. Brolix spoke, his voice subdued. I called them weak. I said they would pop if you poked them. They are physically fragile compared to many species, Thrandok agreed. But fragility is not the same as weakness. A human might break more easily than a Thuxian, but the human will get back up, again and again and again. That is what makes them terrifying. Velcris looked back at Nathan, who was finishing his 6th cup of poison, having casually discussed breaking bones and drinking bat blood like they were everyday occurrences, because for humans they probably were. Velcris raised a tentacle, her voice hesitant. Professor, I have a question. If humans are this dangerous, this resilient, this unstoppable, why did the Galactic Federation allow them to join? Why are they not quarantined? Why are we sitting in a classroom with one right now? It was a fair question, one that had been building in her mind throughout the entire lecture. Every revelation had painted humans as more terrifying than the last. Nathan laughed from the back row. Oh, do not worry, there was a whole debate about that. Took like 3 years of committee meetings. Pretty sure half the council wanted to build a giant fence around our solar system and put up a keep out sign. So why didn't they? Brolix asked. Professor Thrandok's mandibles spread into what might have been a smile. Because of what happened during the evaluation period, the Federation sent observers to Earth for 2 standard years, monitoring human behavior, assessing the risks. Do you know what they found? He pulled up a new image. It showed humans in brightly colored vests, digging through rubble. Another showed humans forming a chain to pull someone from floodwaters. Another showed a human sharing food with a starving child from a different ethnic group. They found that humans, despite being persistent predators from a death world, despite their capacity for violence and survival, despite every evolutionary pressure that should have made them ruthless killers, are overwhelmingly compassionate. Nathan nodded. We have this weird thing where we see something suffering and our immediate instinct is to help it. Does not matter if it is another human, an animal, or apparently aliens we just met. We just want to make things better. Humans run into burning buildings to save strangers. Thrandok continued. They jump into freezing water to rescue people they have never met. They donate organs to dying patients they will never know. They adopt orphaned animals from other species. They cry at sad stories about fictional characters. He gestured to Nathan. They are endurance predators who feel guilty about stepping on insects by accident. They are apex survivors who would give their last bit of food to someone hungrier. It is the most contradictory, baffling, wonderful thing about them. Velcris felt something shift in her chest, a strange warmth spreading through her. The Federation classified humans as benevolent deathworlders, Thrandok said. Dangerous, yes. Capable of incredible destruction, absolutely. But their empathy is just as powerful as their persistence. Perhaps more so. A human who decides you are their friend will run through fire for you, fight impossible odds for you, and never give up on you. It is our pack bonding instinct gone haywire, Nathan explained. We used to apply it just to our tribes, but now we kind of apply it to everything. You are all my pack now, whether you like it or not. If any of you needed help, I would be there. That is just how we are wired. Sierra spoke softly. You would help us, even though we feared you? Called you weak? Well, yeah, Nathan said, looking genuinely confused by the question. You did not know any better. No hard feelings. Besides, fear is a reasonable response to new information. You all handled it pretty well, honestly. Only 2 people fainted. Krillax groaned from their seat. The irony, Thrandok said, is that the species best equipped to survive is also the species most determined to ensure others survive too. Humans brought medical technology, agricultural techniques, and disaster response protocols that have saved millions of Federation lives. They volunteer for the most dangerous jobs, the rescue missions no one else will take. He looked around the classroom. So yes, humans are terrifying, but they are terrifying allies, not enemies. Unless you threaten something they have decided to protect, then you face the full force of a persistence predator that will never stop, never give up, and never forgive. Nathan raised his empty coffee cup. We prefer the ally option though. Much more fun. Plus you guys have amazing food. Tried Kralaxian crystal fruit last week. Absolutely delicious. The class sat in silence, processing everything they had learned. Humans were walking contradictions, soft and hard, fragile and unbreakable, dangerous and kind. Velcris realized she was not afraid anymore. She was in awe. Class dismissed, Professor Thrandok announced. Your assignment for next week is to write a paper on any aspect of human biology or culture we discussed today. I recommend you get to know the human exchange students. They are remarkably patient about answering questions. Students began packing up, moving slowly. Still stunned, Velcris slithered down to where Nathan was gathering his things. Nathan, I apologize for my species judging yours prematurely. Nathan smiled, that predator grin that no longer seemed quite so threatening. Hey, no worries. You did not know. Now you do. Want to grab lunch? I can introduce you to pizza. Fair warning though, it has cheese on it, which is basically controlled spoilage of animal milk, but it tastes amazing. You eat spoiled milk, Velcris said, but she was smiling too. You are going to love humans, Nathan said, leading her toward the door. We are absolutely ridiculous. As they left the classroom, Velcris looked back at Professor Thrandock, who was watching his students leave with satisfaction. He had taught them the most important lesson of all. Humans were terrifying not because they were monsters but because they were capable of being monsters and chose kindness instead. That was the real power of a Deathworlder, and the galaxy was better for having them in it.